Alex, I spent 3 days last week TIG welding that geometric garden gate for the neighbors. It was a masterpiece. Every bead looked like a stack of dimes. I was so proud. I just stood there admiring the raw steel and the humidity.
I can see where this is going. You left it out overnight, didn't you?
I did more than that. I figured a little morning dew wouldn't hurt while I went to grab some fancy clear coat. By the time I got back, the whole thing looked like it had been pulled from the bottom of the Titanic. Orange fuzz everywhere. It's a gut punch when the metal decides it wants to go back to the earth before you're even done building it.
That's the heartbreak of the hobby. We spend 80 hours fabricating, and then we treat the finish like an afterthought, like putting a cheap bumper sticker on a Ferrari. But today, we're actually diving into the skin of the project: patinas, powder coating, and the good old-fashioned spray gun.
It really is the thin line between a professional heirloom and a pile of scrap. A finish isn't just a pretty face, it's a suit of armor. If you pick the wrong chemistry, you're basically just gift wrapping your hard work for rust to eat later.
Let's start with the big one: powder coating. People talk about it like it's this magical, indestructible shield. How does it actually work in a way that's different from just painting something very thickly?
It's basically static electricity doing the heavy lifting. Instead of liquid paint, you're spraying flour fine plastic dust, resins, and pigments. You hook a ground wire to your workpiece, and the spray gun gives the powder a positive charge. The powder literally leaps through the air to hug the metal. It wraps around corners and hides in crevices like it's scared of the dark.
So no drips, no Tiger Special runs down the side of the bracket?
None. It's incredibly forgiving during the spray. But the magic happens in the oven. You bake it, the dust melts into a liquid film, and then it cross-links into this hard shell. It's like shrink wrapping your project in industrial-grade plastic.
But there's a catch, right? I can't exactly throw a 6-foot gate in my kitchen oven next to a tray of brownies.
Please, for the love of your lungs, never do that. The fumes will make your cookies taste like a tire fire and probably ruin your health. Oven capacity is the wall every maker hits. If it doesn't fit in the box, it doesn't get the coat. That's why the big industrial shops have ovens the size of shipping containers.
I was reading through some specs from Southern Perfection, and they mentioned powder chemistries. I thought powder was just powder. Apparently, if you use the wrong one, the sun will eat it.
Oh, absolutely. If you use an epoxy powder on something that sits in the driveway, it'll look great for a month, then start chalking and flaking like a bad sunburn. Epoxies are the bruisers, tough against chemicals, but they hate UV light. For the outdoors, you want TGIC polyester. It's the workhorse. It can bake in the sun all day and keep its color.
So, epoxy for the indoor shop stool, polyester for the patio furniture.
You got it. And if you want to get fancy, there's urethane for that super smooth high-end look. But honestly, most of us are just trying to hide the fact that our grinding wasn't perfect, which is where hammer-tone or textured powders are a lifesaver. They have a bit of a golf ball texture that masks a multitude of sins.
I was waiting for you to mention how to hide mistakes. That leads us to the rival, wet paint. It feels a bit old school compared to electrostatic powder, but it's still everywhere. Why would I pick a spray gun and liquid over powder?
Size and heat. If you're working on something massive, like a car frame or a bridge, you aren't putting that in an oven unless you're a billionaire. Also, some components have rubber seals or temper-sensitive bits that would melt at the 400 degrees needed for powder. Wet paint is versatile. You can do multi-coat systems, a zinc-rich primer to fight rust, followed by a high-gloss top coat.
And the finish quality?
A world-class wet paint job will beat powder for pure depth and shine every time. Think of a classic car. You don't powder coat a 1967 Mustang. You want that liquid glass look. But man, you pay for it in labor. Sanding, priming, sanding again. It's a test of your soul.
I remember helping you paint that workbench. I think I spent more time picking cat hair out of the wet enamel than I did actually spraying.
That's the home shop tax. If you don't have a clean room, the universe will provide a mosquito or a piece of lint to land right in the center of your perfect finish.
Let's pivot to something a bit more artistic: patinas. When I see your copper or steel pieces that look like they've been sitting in a foggy forest for 50 years, I know you didn't just leave them in the rain.
Well, sometimes I do, but usually it's controlled chemistry. A patina is basically just a sped up version of what nature does. You're oxidizing the surface on purpose. With steel, you can use things like birchwood Casey Super Blue to get that deep, gunmetal oily black. For copper, you're looking at liver of sulfur or ammonia to get those greens and browns.
It feels like alchemy, but isn't it unstable? Like, if I touch it, does it come off on my hands?
It's fragile. It's a layer of corrosion after all. You have to lock it in. Once the color is where you want it, you neutralize the reaction with water or baking soda, dry it, and then hit it with a clear coat or a high quality paste wax. The wax gives it this soft, touchable glow that paint just can't mimic. It feels alive.
That's the maker touch. But let's get into the nitty-gritty, the stuff people skip. Surface prep. Everyone hates it. Everyone wants to get to the coloring part.
If I could hammer one thing into the head of every person starting out, your finish is only as good as the 5 minutes you spent cleaning the metal. You can buy $1,000 gallon of aerospace paint, but if there's a thumbprint of oil from the pizza you ate at lunch on that steel, the paint will peel off in a sheet.
So it's not just about getting the dirt off.
It's about molecular cleanliness. You need to descale it, get that mill scale off with a grinder or an acid bath. Then you degrease it with acetone or a dedicated wax and grease remover. I've seen guys try to paint over rust stabilizers, and sometimes it works, but usually you're just burying a ticking time bomb.
What about silk screening? I saw that in the Pinnacle Precision Guide. That seems like a level of detail most hobbyists don't touch.
It's for when your project needs to speak. If you're building a control panel for a machine or a custom guitar pedal, you need labels that won't rub off. You finish the metal, say with a nice matte powder coat, and then you screen print the ink right on top. It's the difference between a project looking like a prototype and looking like something you bought at a high-end boutique.
We've talked about the how, but let's talk about the why. You mentioned value add earlier. Does a good finish actually make the metal stronger?
Not physically stronger in terms of bending, but it makes it immortal. Metal finishing is about increasing the lifespan. It reduces friction, adds electrical insulation, or, in the case of aerospace stuff, provides heat resistance. But for most of us in the Tiger Den, it's about the perceived value. You show someone a raw weldment, they see a DIY project. You show them that same piece with a perfect textured matte black finish and a brass patina accent, and suddenly they're asking how much you charge for commissions.
It's the professionalism tax.
Exactly. It hides the scratches, rounds off the sharp edges that would otherwise draw blood, and makes the piece feel finished. It's the period at the end of the sentence.
Okay, Tiger, give us a disaster story. I know you have one involving a finishing fail that still keeps you up at night.
Oh, the purple picnic table. This was years ago. A client wanted a bright candy grape purple powder coat on a wrought iron set. I prepped it, sprayed it, and put it in my makeshift oven. But I got distracted by a phone call and forgot I dialed the temperature up too high to preheat.
Oh no.
I came back, and the purple had turned this sickly, burnt marshmallow brown. The pigment literally scorched. But the worst part, it had fused to the rack. I had to spend 2 days with a torch and a scraper just to get the ruined plastic off so I could start over. I lost money on that job, but I learned that a timer is the most important tool in the shop.
The burnt marshmallow incident, a classic. So, what's the takeaway for the folks listening who are staring at a raw piece of steel or aluminum right now?
Don't rush the ending. You've done the hard part, the cutting, the joining, the sweating. Treat the finish like the tribute it is to your hard work. Spend the extra hour on the prep. Experiment with a patina on a scrap piece before you touch your masterpiece. And for heaven's sake, read the label on the can. The engineers who wrote those directions aren't just making suggestions, they're trying to save you from yourself.
And maybe keep your snacks away from the degreaser.
Especially the pizza. Grease is the enemy of the state in this shop.
Well, there you have it. Whether you're baking plastic in an oven, spraying liquid in a booth, or playing chemist with a bottle of acid, the finish is where your project finds its soul.
And remember, if it doesn't look right the first time, there's always the sandblaster. Nothing is permanent in metal. That's the beauty of it.
See you next time in the den.
Keep the sparks flying, folks.